National Broadcasting Company. Now in its 7th decade of bringing you baseball's memories. Baseball's milestones. Baseball's majesty. And baseball's magical moments. NBC Sports proudly presents the Major League Baseball Game of the Week. Today from Tiger Stadium, it's the Toronto Blue Jays versus the Detroit Tigers. The Game of the Week is brought to you by Mitsubishi Motors, who invites you to come see the full line of cars and trucks. Mitsubishi, suddenly the obvious choice. By Miller Brewing Company, sole sponsor of the U.S. Olympic Training Centers. And by Monroe Shock Absorbers. For shocks and struts, America rides Monroe.
And welcome, everybody, to Tiger Stadium in Detroit. I'm Ted Robinson, along with Jim Kaat, for the second game of our Major League Baseball doubleheader. The Detroit Tigers, with this lineup, leading by a score of 2-0. Pat Sheridan, the number 3 batter in the lineup, hit a 2-run first-inning home run off the pitcher you see there, Toronto right-hander Jim Clancy. Noticeable absence in the lineup today, Jim, is Gary Pettis.
And they miss him. He's got 30 of their 49 stolen bases. Injured his left shoulder, batting right-handed last night. Nothing serious, day-to-day nature, not disabling injury or anything like that, but he is missing today.
And the number 6 batter, right fielder Chet Lemon, leading off in the bottom of the second.
And isn't that amazing how that works? Pettis is missing. Bergman in the lineup gets a base hit. Sheridan in the lineup gets the 2-run homer.
One ball and 1 strike now to Chet Lemon. Jim Clancy with a 3-8 record. Career against Detroit, he is 4-16. Lemon got nicked. Left hand or wrist.
We haven't seen too many pitches like that in baseball in the last couple of years. When you do see them, immediately you look for a brawl to break out. I mean, years ago that was common practice. Pitcher was getting roughed up a little bit. He came up and in. Let's get a look at this one. You see it just slipped out of Clancy's hand. You can see it almost squirt out immediately. Let's see where it catches Lemon. Ooh, just on the back of that bottom hand, the right hand. Left hand, excuse me.
And as you saw where the pitch hit Lemon, it got away from Clancy, but was not all that far off the plate. It was high, but not all that far inside.
Well, pitchers or hitters not as conscious of the inside pitch, and especially in this ballpark, a guy like Lemon will look for the ball away to hit it the other way.
Here's the catcher, Matt Noakes, batting 7th in the Tiger order. Noakes heating up a bit after a very slow start. At the plate, already in this game in the field, he has made a key play throwing out. Nelson Liriano attempting to steal to start the ball game for Toronto.
See, this park to me, Ted, you see Richie Garcia said yes, he did go around. This park to me, for a right-hand pitcher like Clancy, is like a left-hander in Fenway Park. The hitters, the lefties, crowd up on the plate. They really like to bring that ball in close to them so they can pull the ball.
See Noakes, he is absolutely over the plate. He's going to be backing away from pitches that'll be strikes.
Well, especially if Clancy gets that fastball moving back across the plate. From a pitching standpoint, obviously you like to have good command of that outside corner so you can get the lefties to hit the ball to center field and left center.
2-1 with nobody out. This is the first series between these two clubs since their own World Series last September and October. These clubs played 7 games against each other in the final week of the year. They were all decided by 1 run. Detroit won the last 4 and won the division by 1 game. And as we approach the halfway mark this year, the Tigers come in hot. They've won 8 of 10. Right now they're a game back of the Yankees. The Blue Jays are just a couple of games under 500, Jimmy, but in the American League East, that puts them behind 5 good ball clubs.
Yeah, when you're behind quality teams like Yankees, Cleveland, Tigers, Milwaukee, and Boston, that's a lot of hurdles to jump over.
He turned on that, but it's a long foul.
You know, when you get into contention and you're 7 or 8 games out and you're in second place, you feel like, hey, we could catch that lead team. But, boy, they've got to knock off an awful lot of teams to get up there. And, of course, a team that has really had a lot of internal strife from the opening of the season.
Lemon the runner. Nobody out. A 2-2 count to Noakes. And Rich Garcia at third base rings up Matt Noakes. That's the second strikeout for Jim Clancy. Did a good job of pitching him inside.
Oh, yeah. Well, he got the breaking ball off the plate, out of the strike zone, down and in. But you won't see the lefties get too many fastballs in the inside part of the plate to hit.
That will bring to the plate designated hitter Ray Knight, batting in the 8th spot. Knight, one of the few players who has escaped Sparky Anderson's platoon system. He's been playing virtually every day for the Tigers the last 5 to 6 weeks.
Of course, Sparky and Ray Knight go back to the connection in Cincinnati. And Sparky saw Knight when he was an everyday player. In fact, was responsible for Pete Rose changing positions at one time. Ray Knight playing third base for the Reds.
Somewhere behind that pole was Sparky. His club had been playing extremely well defensively until Thursday night when they started this series. Runner goes. The Tigers had the fewest errors in the major leagues until Thursday night. They made 5 here Thursday against the Jays, and then 4 more last night in a Detroit victory.
You know, this is such a statistical game. We keep close track of numbers. And there's one right there that'll be very deceiving. You know, the Tigers are no longer the leading defensive team in the American League. The Twins are. And they'll say, yeah, they made 34 errors, but 9 of them in 2 ball games. Very deceptive.
When you look at Detroit overall, Jim, I mean, that's really what's put them to the top. Their offense has been well off the pace they had last year. Their defense and their pitching have been fairly strong thus far. Count stays 0-2 tonight.
You know, that appears to be a trend this year. We're not hearing about the rabbit ball and the home run. I think they put the baseballs back in a freezer or something over the wintertime, and we're not seeing as many home runs. And I can't really say that the pitching has, you know, all of a sudden over the winter has improved that much, but obviously scoring is down.
Everywhere except Oakland.
Yeah, they got some bashers out there.
One ball and 2 strikes, the count tonight. Clancy has thrown a lot of pitches in the first inning plus of his outing today. Needed 25 to get through the first inning alone. Dave Bergman started the Tiger first with a single to center. Lou Whitaker sacrificed him to second. And then Pat Sheridan hit a 3-2 pitch into the upper deck in right field for his 8th home run. And that has the Tigers in front 2-0. That almost nicked Knight.
You know, I'm sure one of the things going through Jim Clancy's mind, and he's thrown a lot of pitches, the fact that he's only 4-16 lifetime against the Tigers. go through a period of time you don't have a lot of success against the team, you tend to pitch a little more defensive.
Knight may have been asking Rick Reed to see if there was a flesh burn on that ball. 2-2. That did get him. 2-hit batsman in the inning. Clancy had only hit 2 batters in his 14 starts prior to today.
Notice Ray Knight did not rub it. You know, always known as a hard-nosed ball player. The hitter hates to admit, even if it's burning right now, hates to admit that it hurt. Ooh, got him right above the elbow. He's just going to throw that bat down. Walked halfway out to the mound. I thought we might see a little action there.
Jimmy Williams gone through an awful tough year. Says he stopped reading the newspapers. Strike to Tom Brookins.
If he'd have talked to Steve Carlton, he could have quit that 15 years ago.
Well, you know, for Williams and the Blue Jays, it's almost the type of situation where they prefer to be on the road. Manny Lee can't do anything with it. And the bases are loaded for the Tigers. Manny Lee was a late insertion about 20 minutes before the game today, going in to replace Tony Fernandez, who has a knee problem.
Well, you see the breaking ball. Clancy gets the double play ball. And Manny Lee, remember the last time he played shortstop in this ballpark? Last year. And Alan Trammell hit a shot between his legs that ended up knocking in the winning run. Just can't find a handle on that one. And should have been 2.
Manny Lee, of course, played the last 10 games of Toronto's season, replacing Fernandez last year when he went out with an elbow injury. And that play Jim referred to happened on the Saturday game of the last weekend.
That pitching coach, that's Galen Cisco. He did not start the season with the Blue Jays. He was in their AAA, with their AAA club, Syracuse. And we want to wish Al Widmar, their pitching coach, who's undergone some back and neck surgery back in Tulsa, Oklahoma, if he's watching, recuperating. And in the meantime, Galen Cisco taking over his chores.
Bases loaded, 1 out, and the leadoff batter, Dave Bergman. That's a long run, and Gruber won't get there. One of the things that amazes me, Jim, when you come in here year after year, you see a Tiger lineup and you look at it and it doesn't really frighten you. But boy, Sparky Anderson gets a lot of mileage out of guys that, you know, other teams may have given up on.
The Tigers are like an umpire that's working a good game. You don't notice that he's there. They just kind of get the job done. Tigers play baseball that way.
Bergman is perhaps the least likely player to be a leadoff batter in a game for a team that's only a game out of first place. Great bench player. He's only had 55 at-bats this year.
With Pettis out of the lineup because of the shoulder injury and Salazar not playing today because of the right-hander, that's 35 of the Tigers' 49 stolen bases. So they'll play station-to-station baseball today. They're not going to run a lot.
Chasing it back towards the Blue Jay dugout, but it will make the seats. Ernie Witt recently turned 36. Been mentioned in some trade rumors recently. It seems like the Blue Jays, when they come to each town, bring a new rumor with them. Most of them involving Jesse Barfield. There have been a few involving Witt.
Witt right there, probably carrying on a friendly conversation with the home plate umpire Rick Reed. They both reside in Mount Clemens in the off-season, right outside of Detroit here.
1-2 with the bases loaded. One thing Bergman likely will not do is get himself out. Pretty good eye at the plate. Here are your base runners from third around to first. Lemon, Knight, and Brookins. Brookins' ball was scored an error on Lee. In fact, in this numbers craze that you mentioned, Jim, in baseball the last couple of years, the stat that's gaining popularity with a lot of front office people is on-base percentage. Bergman has a better on-base percentage than Gary Pettis, who would normally be the Detroit leadoff batter.
Good point. You know, he's a very patient hitter. And even though his average would not be up there, the fact that he gets on by way of the walk still can be just as productive.
Well, Clancy needed a strikeout, and he got one. His third so far. And that's the second out here with the bases loaded. And we'll bring Lou Whitaker to the plate. Whitaker sacrificed Bergman to second in the first inning. Batting at .289. Whitaker getting some days off as the season goes on against left-handed pitching. He did not play last night when Toronto started John Cerruti. Two to nothing Tigers. They have the bases loaded, 2 out. Play Whitaker straight away. Toronto with their outfield intact. Bell is playing left today, Mosby center, and Barfield in right. I don't know what Clancy and Witt are doing, but
I don't know if
not
that's playing
contributing
a psychological game with Whitaker or not. You know, last night we had the longest 9-inning game here in American League history, 3 hours and 59 minutes for a 9-inning game. And maybe they're going to try to break the record. I don't know.
There was no batting practice for either team today because of a youth clinic the Tigers put on, but I'm sure that both teams welcomed that after last night's marathon. And that was 3:59, and they only played 8.5 innings last night.
You know, those two guys right there, two of the original members of the Blue Jays, Clancy and Ernie Witt. Clancy, a property of the Rangers originally, as Walt Terrell, today's starter, was, and Witt from the Red Sox. But these guys have been through some tough times and some good times with the Blue Jays.
They're the last two remaining members. Garth Orge, out of baseball now, was with the Blue Jays through the end of last year. No swing there, and it's 2-1.
And that's what the long conference was about, Ted. You see the outfield, Barfield slightly towards center field, so they're swinging Whitaker a little bit over to left. Clancy wanted to know whether Witt wanted the ball inside or outside. They took a shot at the inside part of the plate.
Whitaker hit it that way, but it's in the ballpark. George Bell. George didn't realize that was the third out, but it is. Clancy pitches out of trouble. It's 2-0 Tigers, and we'll be right back after these messages from your local station.
Yeah, it started in spring training, the internal strife. Is George Bell going to DH or play left field? I don't know. Here he thinks there's only 2 out. No, that's the third out, George. Now he realizes it. Comes trotting in.
It was a long inning.
It was that. Don't blame him. Tough to keep track of the outs from Clancy. 53 pitches in just 2 innings.
The Blue Jay lineup: Nelson Liriano leading off today at second base, followed by Lloyd Mosby, Rance Mulliniks, George Bell in left, Fred McGriff, Kelly Gruber, Ernie Witt, Jesse Barfield batting in the 8th spot. Hard to get used to that. And Manny Lee replacing Tony Fernandez today at shortstop. And Walt Terrell, the Tiger pitcher, going through the first 2 innings, allowing only a bunt single to Liriano to start it. Terrell's 10th start. He missed the first 6 weeks of the year from an off-season ankle injury. And he throws a strike to Ernie Witt. Witt's numbers: hit a home run here Thursday night. He has hit 20 home runs in his career against Detroit. That is twice as many as he's hit off any other club. Whitaker with the first out.
And that pitch, a perfect example of what a right-hand pitcher will try to do to a hitter like Witt in this ballpark. Keep that ball right on the outside edge of the plate. They try to pull it. They'll end up with a ground ball to short or second. See right there, outside edge. Can't pull that ball and get a base hit.
The number 8 batter, Barfield. And a tough year for Barfield. 2 years ago, 40 home runs. Last year, 28. This year, 3. He's missed some time with a wrist problem, but has now hit only 3 home runs in his last 70 games. And Jimmy, what, as a player, I'm sure you went through this, what does it do to a player like Barfield, a guy who's had some good years, to come to the ballpark every day and read his name in the paper being traded to any one of a number of clubs?
Every player will react differently. I think in some cases that one.
Oh, a long run, and Lemon.
Wow.
I don't think he's going to get up too quickly from that. That ball appeared to be out of play, and Lemon made a great try in the Sun field, but his midsection hit the bullpen roof.
There is a slight pad on the bullpen railing down there, but at the speed that Lemon was going, there's no way that cushioned that blow enough to keep him from either knocking the wind out of himself. You see him breathing rather deeply there. Boy, that reminded me, Ted, of back in the '65 World Series, Earl Batty catching for the Twins, and in the Dodger Stadium boxes that are similar to that, he hit his throat against the railing like that. Great effort by Lemon, but just can't stop himself and flips over the railing there.
Actually, he does a great job here to avoid the unpadded part. See how he did that?
That's
that
could
have been
to,
a lot worse.
You know what could happen right there? The most dangerous part is the possibility of breaking your wrist when you're jammed into that railing at full speed.
There's a guy, Jim, who's been a career center fielder, made a move to right field when Pettis came in here, and they say he's playing like a new man.
And I think actually that might be what they're looking at, Ted, is the wrist. Boy, they're coming out here with the stretcher, so we know that it is a more serious injury than just getting the wind knocked out of it. I was surprised to hear the outfielders, Pat Sheridan and Lemon, talking about the sun is not as much of a factor right now in right field as it is in some ballparks in the twilight game. But for Lemon, an adjustment, just getting a jump on the ball, playing right field as opposed to center field.
And this won't do a whole lot for the Tigers if Lemon's unable to continue. They're already minus Pettis today with a bad shoulder. And if Lemon is unable to go, they'd lose 2 outstanding defensive outfielders. The Tigers are a team with pretty good depth as far as hitting goes, but they don't really have any defensive specialists on their bench.
We're happy to see they're recalling the stretcher. And Lemon, as you can see, is going to walk off under his own power. But I do believe It was an injury to that wrist. He used that hand to brace himself, which is only a natural thing to do, going at full speed. Another look at it. You watch his bare hand right there, his open hand against the railing, up over to brace himself, and I think let's hope that he just jammed it and nothing more serious. Right there. Hand hits the rail. Ooh. That hurts a little bit just to watch that.
That hand, if that's what's the injury is, that may have saved it from being much worse. It could have been ribs, midsection. Mike Heath is going to go in to replace Lemon in right field. There is Heath, catcher by trade, but a man who can play many different positions. In fact, he played 7 of them for the Tigers last year. The batter was Barfield with 1 out here in the 3rd inning. Tigers lead it 2-0 on Sheridan's first inning home run. And it's a 1-ball-and-2-strike count to Barfield.
And you mentioned how players handle that trade rumor. We were talking about Barfield before he hit the foul ball. Everyone handles it differently. Some respond to it in a positive way, but I think in Jesse's case, it's obviously not been a positive thing for him.
The Blue Jay people say he hasn't let it get him down. Still a very positive person. But I'm sure deep down inside there has to be something to it, and I wonder if Cal Ripken Jr. may not be going through the same thing now for Baltimore.
Well, in Barfield's case, he's been a part of such an outstanding outfield here for the last 5 years, and they have been on the brink but never quite won the whole deal.
First strikeout for Terrell. And with 2 outs, Manny Lee will be the batter. The Yankees winning in what many of you saw is the first game of our doubleheader today. And Roger Clemens, 9 strikeouts. And we're not even to the halfway point of the year. 149 strikeouts and 6 shutouts. Chris Sabo had 2 doubles, a triple, and a home run for Cincinnati in their win. Quickly 2 strikes to Manny Lee. And Greg Maddux of the Chicago Cubs wins his 12th game today, blanking Montreal. The Dodgers leading in the 2nd. And Whitaker to Evans retires Manny Lee at the end of 2.5. The Tigers lead it by a score of 2-0. Part of the tradition of coming to Tiger Stadium to broadcast is being aware that we are within about 50 feet of home plate. So I made sure I'm working with a pitcher who won 16 Gold Gloves.
Hey, this comes in handy. This is the greatest spot for a broadcaster in big league baseball, but be prepared, and I'm prepared.
Except if people could see the hole in that glove, they could see why you won 16 Gold Gloves.
Kids would throw this glove in their trash can.
Pat Sheridan leading off for the Tigers here in the 3rd inning. This will be the end of his 2nd at-bat. This is what Sheridan did in his first at-bat. A 3-2 pitch with Dave Bergman at 2nd and 1 out in the 1st inning.
And the difference, Ted, was the ground ball we just saw him hit was a fastball in the outside part of the plate. That was a slider that got into the middle to the inside 3rd. And that's where they end up here in Tiger Stadium. Right field stands.
It's only 325 feet down that right field line. Kind of a cozy little shot tucked inside the foul pole. 340 to left field here. 1-1 to Trammell. Trammell flied to center in his first at-bat. Center field in this ballpark, of course, is the deepest in the American League at 440 feet. And You get a guy like Gary Pettis on this club. He loves center field here because he knows he can turn on any ball and run all day. Three and one now to Trammell. Yeah, Jim, one of the interesting things I was hearing from Darrell Evans before the game today, he was saying it's actually a misconception that this is a great hitter's ballpark for lefties. Here is Evans to bat next.
Yeah, see, that's a hitter talking. They don't think any. Ask Ted Williams. He liked to hit here.
George Bell with that one. They're 2 down.
I think the point that Darrell was trying to make, Ted, is that, yes, as a left-hand power hitter, which he is, pitchers are so conscious of keeping the ball away from him. He does not get as many hittable pitches as he might get in other ballparks. But I'll tell you what, if a pitcher makes a mistake, this is still the best left-hand hitter's park along with Yankee Stadium you'd want to be in.
As you can see, Evans has really yet to see many of those mistake pitches this year.
Well, he saw 6 of them, one last night.
387 now in his career. He is 2 behind Johnny Bench and 3 behind Greg Nettles, still active with the Expos. And I would think most people would feel a fairly good bet to get number 400 before the end of this year.
He's moving up in some good trivia categories, you know, for guys that are 40 years old and have hit home runs after their 40th birthday. To look at one of the trivia questions that he's an answer to right there.
Atlanta, San Francisco, and Detroit for Evans. He spent 7 years at Candlestick, and he was talking about that, what that might have been able to do for his numbers had he spent those 7 years in a park a little bit kinder to hitters than Candlestick. One ball and 2 strikes.
Well, and he has adjusted well wherever he's gone. There's a lot of talk, too, about what if Williams played his whole career in this ballpark instead of Fenway Park. He may have hit 700 home runs.
Ahead of the breaking ball, and he pulls it foul. Of course, last year, Evans shattered one of the marks you were alluding to, Jim. Ted Williams had held the record for most home runs in one season by a 40-year-old or 40-year-old plus player, and Evans hit 34 last year, which shattered Williams' mark. And if he plays beyond this year, he may be the all-time geriatric home run hitter.
I think right now, and I was surprised to find this out, I did not research every home run hitter. Whew, close pitch. But Carl Yastrzemski hit more home runs after his 40th birthday than Williams or Musial. I think somewhere over 50.
Evans has hit, from the date of his 40th birthday, he thinks he's hit 31. And Jim Clancy gets his first 1-2-3 inning, something he needed desperately. The Tigers lead it 2-0 after 3, and now here's a look back at a very special Olympic moment. Along with Jim Kaat, Ted Robinson with you at Tiger Stadium. We move to the 4th. Detroit leading 2-0 on a 83-degree low humidity Saturday afternoon and a fabulous crowd on hand in a city that's going a little sports crazy right now with the Pistons, 1 win from the NBA championship, and Tiger Stadium 1912. It's the second oldest park, second to Comiskey Park. There's been some talk here in Detroit about trying to knock it down and build a new one.
Boy,
much of it coming from Tom Monahan.
I'll support that. Don't let them make the biggest error. I mean, this is a great day for a ball game in a ballpark. This is not an arena or a stadium. This is a ballpark where it ought to be played.
Everything except the dead center field bleachers today is filled. Nelson Liriano starting with a strike. I guess you've got well over 40,000 here today. This park I think Jim is in much better condition than, let's say, Comiskey Park. Only 2 years older is Comiskey, but this ballpark seems to me to be in very good shape.
Not only the structure, but the playing field they keep in tremendous condition. The hitters will talk about the infield. You're getting a little look at the shadows right there that are a benefit to the pitchers. Boy, have they supported the Tigers or what?
There are a lot of lean years at the beginning of those 23.
I'll say.
Two balls and 2 strikes to Nelson Liriano.
Yeah, the hitters will talk about the infield here, how thick it is. I mean, it's like trying to hit the ball through syrup, but it is a good, thick, even grass, and the infielders get very few bad hops.
And the grass is not nearly as thick and as slow as it was a month ago when we were here. It's been trimmed a little bit before the start of this homestand. Terrell doesn't walk a whole lot of batters behind here, 3-2. And Liriano dumps a base hit in front of Mike Heath in right field. So he now has both Toronto hits. Third base runner for the Jays. Liriano thrown out stealing in the first. Bell walked in the second and then was rubbed out on a double play. Lloyd Mosby popped out to Brookins at third base in his first at-bat. Tough year for Mosby thus far. Hits that ball pretty well to left field, but Bergman is there. And that's the first out.
Well, once again, in drawing a comparison to Fenway Park, that's kind of your bailout as a pitcher. Yeah, if they pull the ball, it's a home run, but you know if you can get them to hit it the other way, as you try to get the right-handers to do in Fenway Park, hit it the opposite way. You got to drive it awfully well to left field to get it out of here.
But I'm telling you, last year you'd come in here and guys would do that. There are guys who could hit the ball out the other way.
Well, we talked about the controversy around the baseball. I don't know, they say the specs are the same, but the balls sure aren't jumping this year the way they were last year.
Rance Mullenix, the DH today, popped to short his first time. You don't think there's a difference in the ball? The Tigers last year hit 225 home runs. Right now, and we're closing in, as we said, on the halfway point, they're on a pace to hit 137. That's 88 fewer home runs, their pace for this year. One ball and 1 strike to Mullenix. Liriano, 7 stolen bases. He is third on the Blue Jays in that category. You see Mullenix in a terrific year. This will be playable. A long run for Bergman. Did a little 360 around that ball, but still made the play, and they're 2 down.
Well, another characteristic of Tiger Stadium, when the left-hand hitter slices the ball down the line here, it actually, and the wind generally blows out toward right, it starts to fade back into fair territory, which that one did.
Once again, we remind all of you we'll be selecting the NBC Miller Lite Player of the Game at the conclusion of today's ball game. George Bell. And again, you look at a number that for the Blue Jays is significantly subpar. 47 home runs last year and only 8 thus far this year. And it's not just home runs. Bell, a lot of doubles last year. He led the American League in extra base hits last year. This year he is not in the top 10.
His last home run, since we've drawn comparisons between this ballpark and Fenway Park, was off left-hander Bruce Hurst in Fenway Park.
Terrell jammed him. And the quick flip from Trammell to Whitaker ends the Jays' top half of the fourth inning. The leadoff man is on, but nothing, and the Tigers lead it 2-0 after 3.5. First pitch of the bottom of the fourth. Mike Heath batting for the first time, replacing Lemon, who has been taken to a hospital for precautionary x-rays, what they think is a bruised right wrist.
Yeah, I guess we ought to bring those that tuned in late up to date. He's had a tough day with his hands. His first time up, he was hit in the left wrist by an inside pitch from Jim Clancy, and then making a tremendous effort to catch a foul pop off the bat of Jesse Barfield. Jammed his right wrist against the bullpen cage, and they have taken him in for observation, and he has at least a bruised right wrist.
Just foul outside of third. Now, as we again move further into the baseball season, we may see a few player moves. We understand one has been made. The Houston Astros have picked up veteran third baseman Buddy Bell from Cincinnati. Bell had lost his job, injury, and then the good play of rookie Chris Sabo.
Yeah, that's really what precipitated that trade more than anything. It wasn't that Buddy Bell is no longer an effective player, but Chris Sabo got in the lineup, and he has just been an all-around player. Great speed, hit with power. I think you mentioned he got a couple of hits today that helped win the game for the Reds.
Clancy, the changeup gets Heath. Clancy now with 5 strikeouts. He's only allowed 2 hits. They were both in the first inning, and pitched out of a bases-loaded jam in the second.
Right there, just at the end, the slider, almost like a cut fastball. Very late, quick break, and Heath swings over it.
Now Matt Noakes, the batter, he struck out his first time.
And as you see the shadows there, Ted, another thing the hitters will talk about in Tiger Stadium on a bright day is the glare off the scoreboard. Not easy to pick the ball up coming out of the pitcher's hand.
There you see that hitter's background. At night, they say it's fabulous here. We're very dark out in center field, and it's easy to see the ball. Clancy really working Noakes inside again.
Well, back before the designated hitter, this was always the favorite ballpark for pitchers to come in and take batting practice in. You look forward to coming to Tiger Stadium and get some of those nice fat fastballs about 515 and see how far you could hit them. Not anymore.
How many home runs you hit?
Not enough. I gave up about 400 more than I hit.
But every pitcher who batted I've ever met always knew how many home runs he hit.
Oh, yeah. Got him on your cuff.
Noakes stays alive at 0-2.
Speaking of Houston, more action down there. Bob Knepper had a press conference today to apologize for some of the remarks he has made. Pam Postum, his favorite left-hand pitcher.
We'll be going back to New York when we have more information on Knepper's press conference. Again, tying up Noakes on the hands. It stays 0-2.
And once again, for the casual fan that has not followed that closely, Bob Knepper has made a couple of statements this year, disparaging remarks about women's organizations, and I think he feels now that he wants to make an apology for some of those.
Noakes goes down swinging. That's 6 strikeouts for Clancy. He got into some trouble early in hitting 2 batters in the second inning. Got him into trouble, but it has not discouraged him from continuing to pitch inside. Ray Knight, one of the batters that was hit by a pitch in that second inning when the Tigers had the bases loaded with 1 out. And Clancy got Bergman and Whitaker to get out of the inning. Tigers picked up Knight early in March after teams had already gathered for spring training. Picked him up in exchange for left-handed pitcher Mark Thurman. Been a pretty good move from the Detroit standpoint. Thurman didn't figure in the plans here. And although Knight's numbers are not great right now, he's been playing every day.
Well, I don't know what Sparky Anderson has. I have never played for Sparky. Played on some teams I played against him, but you alluded to it earlier. Guys like Bergman and Salazar and Knight and Sheridan that were not producing for other ball clubs come here, fit right in, and help this club win.
Look at Sparky's record there. That's amazing. The number of wins that he has, over 1,600. That number, that puts him 10th on the all-time list of wins by a manager. 3-2 now tonight. But just to put something in perspective, that number of wins Sparky had is less than half the number of games that Connie Mack won as a manager. Goes around there, and Jim Clancy strikes out the side. He is now 7 in 4 innings. But the Tigers still lead it 2-0, and we'll be right back after these messages from your local station. The Game of the Week is brought to you by Toyota. There's quality, then there's Toyota quality. Who could ask for anything more? Ted Robinson along with Jim Kaat at Tiger Stadium in Detroit, the second game of our NBC doubleheader. And you see that Walt Terrell has been very economical through 4 innings. Of course, in this ballpark, that's not surprising. If you were to handicap this on career records, you have Terrell, who in his career at Tiger Stadium is 32-8, against Clancy, who's 4-16 in his career against Detroit.
And that graphic, 42 pitches through 4 innings, half as many as it's taken Clancy to get the Tigers out through the first 4. He has thrown 85 pitches. That can take its toll when you get into the 6th and 7th inning. Got to go to that bullpen a little sooner.
1-2 now to Fred McGriff. What a pleasant surprise. He's been one of the positives for the Blue Jays, an everyday player now that Willie Upshaw has been moved to Cleveland. And he leads, there's in the league leaders in a lot of categories.
Well, you know, he had pretty good training learning to hit the fastball. Comes from Tampa, Florida. You got Floyd Yeomans and Dwight Gooden down there about McGriff's age, so probably saw some pretty good heat in his teenage years. And he can hit it.
Lofts one to left. This got some carry on it. Not far enough. Dave Bergman with the play. There's one out.
Knows where the fence is. See him reach out his hand. You'll notice all good outfielders, as they hit the warning track, will use that hand to feel where the wall is, brace themselves, keep their eye on the ball, and make the catch. Bergman did it perfectly.
Kelly Gruber, the batter. Gruber bounced into a double play in the 2nd inning. Bergman must take a lot of fly balls in BP because he's played a pretty polished left field thus far.
I see the guys that don't get to play every day, like Bergman, they call it power shagging. When the regulars are hitting, they're out there shagging fly balls. They become better outfielders.
Very impressive numbers for Gruber. He's 5th in the American League in RBIs.
And here's a guy that has really helped him, Ted. Cito Gaston, the Blue Jays batting coach. And how has he helped him? Well, most hitters hit off the fastball and adjust to the breaking ball. Cito has worked with Gruber on trying to study pitchers' patterns and a sophisticated form of guessing a little.
Full count now to Gruber. Well, whatever it is, it has worked, because here's a team with Bell and Barfield and Mosby, and Gruber is leading them in runs batted in.
Well, they expected so much of him so early in his career, and he's just now blossoming as a great everyday player.
How did the Blue Jays get Gruber? $25,000 in the Major League Draft, unprotected by Cleveland. 3 of the 9 starters today for Toronto were acquired. Very shrewd moves by Pat Gillick off the Major League Draft. Fisted out into short center field. And they're 2 down. Manny Lee came through the Major League Draft, and so did a fellow named George Bell, which may have been the best $25,000 Pat Gillick ever spent.
From the Phillies. Well, I'll tell you, that organization, Toronto, deserves a lot of credit. You look at the Seattle organization that came into the league at the same time. They've never had a year over 500. This team has won a division and come close a couple of other times.
Ernie Witt bounced to second his first at-bat. Witt's getting pushed a little bit for playing time. Very productive rookie Pat Borders for the Blue Jays. He's playing against lefties and putting up some pretty good numbers.
You see him waiting, Ted, to get a pitch on the inside half of the plate. Terrell has yet to give him one. He's winning the battle today. I'll tell you, Ernie's got some fans here, though. We mentioned resides in Mount Clemens, right outside of Detroit.
Brookins chasing, and he's got room. And another easy inning for Terrell, who has now retired 11 of the last 12 to keep the Tigers in front after 4.5.
Now you see Brookins. Now he will try to find the rail just to see where he is. And watch him retreat. The ball drifts back in toward fair territory. Up. And he puts it away.
And leading off, he bounces one by Gruber. Ball slowing down in foul ground, and Brookins takes a big turn and then goes back to second. Tom Brookins, who started the year on an absolute tear and has been playing well as of late. 400 over the last 11 games, a leadoff double. And the Tigers will now go to the top of the order.
Now Bergman will show you what a good veteran ball player will try to do right here. He'll just try to hit that ball on the ground to the right side and move Brookins to third.
And the Blue Jays thusly will try to pitch him away again.
Right.
Bergman a single and a strikeout. Now Clancy behind 2-0. High pitch count thus far, and now starting his 3rd time through the batting order. The Tigers may be able to make something happen. Three and 0. And all 4 were up high. So a walk. That's the first issued by Clancy. Gives the Tigers 2 runners with no one out. Brings Lou Whitaker to the plate. And now Jimmy Williams going to get his bullpen going.
And Williams flashing a sign right there to his infielders. I'm sure right here the Blue Jays looking for the Tigers to sacrifice. They may have Kelly Gruber charging, would be one of the defenses they would use here to try to knock Brookins off at third.
We saw right-hander Jose Nunez beginning to throw for the Blue Jays. Whitaker takes a strike. Whitaker sacrificed in the first inning, fly to left in the second. Another good bunt. Witt's going to have to hurry. No. Bases loaded, nobody out.
Boy, what a nice weapon for Sparky Anderson to have Lou Whitaker in that situation, because, see, Gruber could not charge and assume that he was automatically going to bunt because Whitaker has such great bat control and could slap the ball the other way. So Gruber held his ground, and Whitaker makes the perfect bunt.
Well, Sparky sees his team with the bases loaded, no one out, and the heart of his order coming up. And that merits another trip to the mound for Galen Cisco.
And that's 92 pitches for Jim Clancy. We're only halfway through the ball game, not even halfway. And you saw him lose a little command of that fastball, ball going up and away to the left-hand hitter. That's usually the first sign of fatigue for a pitcher, when that fastball begins to sail up and away.
There is Nunez, who was just reactivated today by the Blue Jays off the disabled list. The Jays outrighted veteran Mark Ross to their Syracuse farm team. 2-0 Tigers. And Pat Sheridan will bat. Bases loaded, no one out. Sheridan a 2-run homer and a ground ball to second. More details on the Buddy Bell trade. The Cincinnati Reds get a player to be named later in return for Buddy Bell, who goes to the Houston Astros.
You don't see that happen too often, Ted, where a team will trade a player to another team that is in contention in the same division with them. Always afraid that that player will come back and beat them and do well against them. Obviously, Cincinnati feels comfortable with Chris Sable at third.
You were once traded to a division mate. Twins sent you to the White Sox in '73.
But the White Sox were not really in contention at that particular time. They were about 15 games out of first place, down in, I think, fourth place. And different kind of a deal. I think at that time the Twins felt that my days were over with anyway, so it wasn't a major transaction on their part.
They were only off by 11 years, was it? Ball and 2 strikes. Ripped. Fair. And they'll score 2 and maybe 3. Well, they'll hold up Whitaker at third, and Pat Sheridan, who had a 6 RBI game earlier this week, has now knocked in 4 today, and the Tigers lead 4-0. Same type of swing he put on the first inning home run, kind of tomahawking one to right field. That one down the line, dropped fair, and brought home 2, and signals the end of the day for Jim Clancy. So the veteran will continue his record of not having beaten the Tigers in almost 4 years. 24-year-old right-hander Jose Nunez on for the 10th time. Relieving Clancy with runners at second and third. No one out. Infield in. Halfway at short and second. And the Tigers already leading here 4-0 in the 5th inning. Nunez just reactivated today, was on the 15-day disabled list with a strained muscle in his buttocks. Blown a couple by Trammell.
He's got good numbers. 97 innings last year. He averaged a strikeout an inning, 99 strikeouts. A little short, compact motion. Good live fastball.
One and two. Trammell's numbers not bad either. He's 4th in the league with that average you saw a moment ago at .333. Never hit cleanup in his life until last year and wound up finishing second, a very close second in the MVP voting.
Well, trying to knock in his buddy down at third base, Lou Whitaker. And these guys, those of you that follow baseball closely, know they have played second and short together more than any combination in the history of baseball.
In their 11th season together. Well, Barfield has one of the game's great arms. Let's see if Whitaker challenges. He does. Oh, what a strike. Double play. You just asked for that one. Give Barfield a chance to show it.
I am really surprised that Lou Whitaker did not put up a little bit of an argument on it, because it was a tremendous throw. On the fly all the way. Look at it right here, but it looked like Ernie Witt's sweep tag was just a shade late. See, it looked like he just slid under the tag. But most of the time, when the ball beats the runner, the umpire will call the runner out. He'll give you the benefit of the call. And Rick Reed right there as Witt makes the sweep tag, although I think Ernie may have had him blocked off. Let's get another look at it. Might have blocked him off home plate.
Witt did a great job of blocking.
Yes, he did, I'll say.
That's one of those plays where the umpire will sometimes tell you that if he had called the man out, he would have had an unbelievable argument from the Toronto side. The ball did beat the runner. Barfield with a great throw. That's only his 4th outfield assist this year. He had 15 last year. And Evans has just crushed one. Well, that outfield assist saved 1 run, but Evans brings home 2 more with his 388th career home run. And the Tigers lead 6-0.
He says he does not get a lot of pitches to pull here in Tiger Stadium, but he sure got one there. And now he's just 1 home run career-wise behind Johnny Bench.
Mike Heath taking ball 1. A 4-run 5th, and the Tigers have broken it open, 6-0. And Evans is beginning to show some signs he may be duplicating last year when he had a very slow start. And as the weather got warm, so did his bat.
Yeah, the warm weather gets here, and the older players, Evans over 40, of course, begin to loosen up, freer, easier, swinging that bat a little bit better.
And Heath swinging on 3-0. Spins one to right for a hit. That's 7 hits now for the Tigers. And it brings Matt Noakes to the plate. And in Tiger Stadium, the left-handed bats refuting Evans' claim here, because the left-handed bats have produced all 6 runs, 4 by Sheridan and 2 by Evans.
I want to go back to that call by home plate umpire Rick Reed for just a minute, because to his credit, we get a look at it 2-3 different angles, and oftentimes at that play, it looked like Whitaker had the play beat. And Reed, right on the spot, made the correct call. Ernie Witt blocked him off the plate. Good call.
Watch it one more time. Witt blocking.
Throws got him beat. Blocked him off that front corner of the plate.
Two and one now to Noakes. Leading by 4 runs at that point, Alex Kramis, the third base coach, was not hesitant to gamble. In a tighter game situation, I think he would have thought long and hard before challenging Barfield. 2-2 to Noakes.
Well, and Witt did the right thing, because as a catcher, if you straddle the plate, you invite the runner to knock you over. But what he did by just giving Whitaker the outside corner induced him to make the slide instead of try to bowl him over.
Yeah, baseball seems to be changing a bit too, Jim. I think, and some people have said this, that there's more of an aggression in base runners coming home and more of a desire to knock the catcher over. 3-2, not out of anything, of course, other than trying to dislodge the ball. But there's some people think there are fewer and fewer guys that will try to make that hook slide and catch the corner of the plate.
Well, after you get your shins roughed up a few times from hitting those shin guards, and catchers will admit this to you too, the best shot is to try to bowl them over and jar the ball loose.
Runner going on the 3-2 two-out pitch, and a foul by Noakes. One catcher hitting and one catcher running. Tigers has been their custom the last couple of years, though, of a lot of players who can play many positions. Heath is one of them. And Noakes strikes out for the 3rd time, but 4 runs in the 5th inning. 2 doubled in by Sheridan and 2 homered in on number 388 from Darrell Evans. So Detroit has a big lead.
I'm Marv Albert in New York. We'll keep the Detroit-Toronto action in view, but within the hour, Houston Astros pitcher Bob Knepper, a man very much in the news this season, apologized for his statements in this week's edition of Sports Illustrated magazine. Among his remarks, Knepper called the National Organization for Women blowhards and lesbians. This following his sexist comments concerning umpire Pam Postema back in spring training. Now, here is Knepper at a news conference about a half hour ago.
Statements I made, I felt, were really poor. I think that even though I made the statements in a joking manner, the statements I made concerning the Now organization were careless and insensitive on my part. And it's because of my earlier experiences with Now in spring training. It's not easy to apologize, but I know that I was wrong.
An apologetic Bob Knepper of the Houston Astros. On the mound for Knepper, it has been a banner season. Off the mound, it has been stormy. Let's get back to Ted and Jim at Tiger Stadium in Detroit.
All right, Marv, thank you. Tom Brookins throwing out Barfield for the first out here in the 6th inning. Jim, the whole Knepper thing just boggles my mind as to why a player, it seems to be a rather unintelligent thing to even get involved in discussing issues like that.
Bob Knepper's been very outspoken about his religious beliefs, his Christian beliefs, and the place in society where he felt women should be. Umpiring was not one of them, and that's where it all started in spring training. And as Bob said right there, I think if you gave him a chance, like a hanging slider, if you could get it back, you wouldn't throw it. Like that statement, he'd like to have it back.
Manny Lee with a foul, 1 ball and 1 strike. Talking to people who were around especially spring training in Arizona when Pam Postema was umpiring. A lot of people feel that she was quite competent.
Oh, Hal Lanier, the Houston manager, spoke very highly, as did others, about her qualifications as an umpire.
Well, here Walt Terrell has cruised through 5, allowing just 2 hits, both by Nelson Liriano. He has walked 1, struck out 1, and now has a 6-run lead. Tigers trying to stay right on the Yankees' heels. Trammell had to stay back on an in-between hop, and the throw pulls Evans off. Ace hit for Lee.
Well, there's hitting slumps, there's pitching slumps, and the Tigers are in a fielding slump, leading the American League in defense the entire year. And starting with this series, we mentioned it earlier in the telecast, make 5 errors on Thursday night and lose, 4 errors last night and win, and now another error by one of their most dependable players, Alan Trammell.
That's my mistake. That is an error on Trammell. And it brings Liriano up, so he still has both of the Toronto hits. Liriano started the year as the opening day second baseman. Wound up going to Syracuse in the month of May for a couple of weeks. Then come back, and Jimmy Williams said he's been a much better ball player since his return the last 2 to 2.5 weeks. It's a rarity, as you saw that close-up of Liriano. No batting gloves. And I'm sure in the Dominican, that's how he first picked up a bat.
Boy, what a influence, the Dominican influence on the Toronto Ball Club. Liriano, an example. Manny Lee, Tony Fernandez, Jose Nunez, the pitcher, George Bell.
Bergman should have this one. Out number 2, and Manny Lee returns to first.
Let's give credit to Epi Guerrero, who heads up the fine scouting system down in the Dominican that has produced so many quality players for the Blue Jays.
I don't think there's any doubt this team has made more use of that pool of talent in the last 10 years than anybody in baseball. And I think really didn't people consider the Dodgers to have more or less a
corner on the market
for many years.
Another one we did not mention, Sil Camposano, who gets a chance to play. They've got an outstanding catcher down in the minor league system, Francisco Cabrera. They have high hopes for. Another Dominican talent.
Lloyd Mosby taking ball 1. Well, what Epi Guerrero and that Dominican success has done for the Blue Jays has forced many other baseball teams to hire scouts and employ people in the Dominican to try and tap into that talent. I know the Oakland Athletics were very quick to hire Juan Marichal several years ago for that very reason, exclusively in the Dominican. One and 1 to Mosby with 2 outs, 6th inning. It is 6-0 Detroit. Right to Whitaker, and the inning is over. So the error by Trammell does not hurt. We're through 5.5, and the Tigers lead 6-0.
Well, the Tigers scored 4 runs the last inning. They would have had more, except for the great throw that Jesse Barfield made. Get a look at it right here. Whitaker on third, Trammell with a median deep fly. Now watch Ernie Witt block the play. Watch his feet. Look at that left foot. Slides out there, knocks Whitaker off the plate, makes the sweep tag. Great throw and great play by Witt. Another angle. Watch his feet. Whitaker never gets to the plate.
On a 1 or on a 2 strike count, Ray Knight grounds out to shortstop to start the bottom of the 6th. That last angle you saw was magnified. That picture was blown up, and a great job by our crew. Our game today being produced by Kenneth Roy Edmondson, directed by Bob Levy. And you saw there graphically what Rick Reed had the best look at. And he made the call. Tom Brookins taking ball one. 6-0 Tigers in the bottom of the sixth. And Brookins started that 4-run fifth with a double.
Boy, this guy can bring it. Nunez. Live fastball.
When people talk trade with Toronto, this is a guy they ask for. The Jays have one of the few teams around that seems to have an excess of pitching. They have two talented lefties coming back off the disabled list soon in Jeff Musselman and Jimmy Key. Yet they'll tell you they're looking for pitching.
Isn't everybody?
We talked about the Major League Draft. 3 starters for the Jays today out of the Major League Draft, and a 4th player in Nunez. He was plucked out of the Kansas City chain. Add to that Tom Henke, who came in the compensation draft when that was intact several years ago. And that really tells you what kind of an organization, top to bottom, the Blue Jays have put together. Brookins out swinging, 2 strikeouts for Nunez.
You mentioned Ernie Witt, that there always seem to be talking about someone taking his job. Pat Borders doing an excellent job right now, but their #1 draft pick in this summer's amateur draft, Ed Sprague, son of former big leaguer Ed Sprague, 3rd baseman on the NCAA championship Stanford team, but probably will be a catcher as a professional. They'll be taking a look at him down the road as their regular catcher.
Dave Bergman taking a strike. Doesn't that seem to be the wave of the future, turning position players into catchers now? Oakland did it with Terry Steinbach. Toronto's done it with Borders.
Well, Mark was the coach of the collegiate champion Stanford Cardinal. Mentioned the fact that his teammate when he was at Stanford was Bob Boone. Bob Boone was a 3rd baseman, played 3rd base on the professional level in his early years, and we all know what an outstanding and durable catcher he has been.
Bergman pulls that to the right field corner. And Barfield, good pickup and throw, but Bergman has his 2nd hit. A 2-out double. And that will bring Whitaker to the plate. In Los Angeles, Tim Belcher working on the shutout for the Dodgers through 6 innings. And the American League West Division leading Oakland A's are tied with Texas in the 8th. And Texas is going with the man today that has tied Oakland up in knots over the last couple of years, and that's Charlie Huff. Big bats.
You get those
need a lot of air against the knuckleball.
Those power hitters like McGuire and Canseco, the big swings, it's the kind of guys the knuckleball pitchers like to pitch against.
Whitaker bunted for a hit his last time. 1 ball and 1 strike here with 2 out. Bergman at 2nd. The amazing thing about Trammell and Whitaker, as Jim told you earlier, Major League record for longevity as a double play combo. This is their 11th year together. Trammell just turned 30 at the start of this season. Whitaker last month just turned 31. They're still kids.
That's a good trivia question there that we can get into. Who was the last regular season second base shortstop combination for the Tigers before they took over? And it was Tom Verizor at short and Tito Fuentes at second. They played most of the games in 1977 before these 2 guys came along. You talk about Tinkers to Evers to Chance. That's been a rhythmic double play combination. All 3 of them went into the Hall of Fame in 1946. But all through their 9 years consecutively, they only turned 435 double plays. These guys have already turned somewhere in the neighborhood of 900.
That's out of play down the left side, and the count staying at 2-2 to Whitaker.
Start looking at some of the great combinations. Russell and Lopes together for 8 years with the Dodgers. And Bill Mazeroski, who has the record for turning double plays as a second baseman, over 1,700. He was teamed up with Dick Groat, Schofield, Gene Alley for years. You got Morgan and Concepcion were together in Cincinnati. Aparicio and Fox, Javier and Maxville. But none of them, the longevity that those two, you're looking at half of it right there. Alan Trammell in the dugout and Lou Whitaker at the plate.
And I think what would amaze other people is to know that neither one of those players has ever played an inning in the major leagues at another position. Shortstop for Trammell, second base for Whitaker. 3-2. Now, of course, Sparky in 85, I believe it was going to move Whitaker to third base for a young man by the name of Chris Patero. That didn't last beyond spring training. Towering fly ball down the right field line, and Barfield catches it. That ball just missed being a home run, and we'll talk about that when we come back. It's a scoreless 6th inning. The Tigers lead by 6, and we'll be back after these messages from your local station.
Another one of the unique characteristics of Tiger Stadium. See the upper deck there kind of hanging over the lower deck in right. That's what a right fielder has to deal with on high fly balls like this one. Whitaker just misses the overhang, and then see how far from the lower deck Barfield is in catching the ball.
The first 4 rows, as you see Pat Sheridan, who has moved to left field, and Gary Pettis has gone into play center field for the Tigers. Dave Bergman is out. Batter is Rance Mullenix in the 7th inning. First 4 rows out there in right field are actually hanging over the playing field, and it is not unusual to see an outfielder be ready to catch a fly ball here on that warning track and have it drop into those first 4 rows.
That's what's so neat about a lot of the old ballparks. I remember old Griffith Stadium when I broke in the seats down the right field line. You could sit in the box seats and look back into the dugout. They would actually protrude beyond the first base dugout.
You will always be able to turn your television set on and see a game from here and know where it is. Never get confused.
You mentioned a while ago Sparky Anderson having only half as many victories as Connie Mack. It was one of my first thrills in baseball, is when my father took me right here to Tiger Stadium. Connie Mack, managing the Philadelphia Athletics, still sat in that first base dugout with his suit and tie on and moved fielders around with his scorecard. You see Sparky sitting there in a 3-piece suit.
He'd have a lot of brown.
He'd have gum, moving his players around.
Might have some brown on it. Hey, you know, Sparky is still a young man. You know, people don't realize that, too. He's only 54 years of age. He could manage long enough to get close to Connie Mack. Connie Mack also lost more games than he won as a manager. Two-two to Mullenix. Now, Walt Terrell, who's a pretty much sinker-slider pitcher, getting a lot of those heavy ground balls today. This telecast is presented by authority of Major League Baseball. It may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form without the express written consent of Major League Baseball. George Bell, the batter, with 1 out in the 7th. Shadows, as you can see, have now just crept past the pitcher's mound. George Bell has been the designated hitter only 6 times this year. And that's just foul. things have been so strange for Toronto because, of course, he was going to be the DH in spring training. They come out here last night. George Bell is playing left field, and Lloyd Mosby is the designated hitter.
Well, we mentioned at the top of the game the internal strife around the Blue Jays, and it all started in spring training when Jimmy Williams had said Sil Camposano was going to play the outfield and George Bell is going to DH. Did not sit right with Lloyd Mosby or George Bell.
1-2 now to Bell.
Of course, the effect on Mosby was that he would have moved from center field to left field. That situation seems to be stabilized now, I think partially due to the fact that Camposano did not really produce offensively the way they hoped he would.
Of course, with so many of the ball players of Latin heritage, the attitudes about the game are a little different. And George Bell took it personally, as a personal affront, when he was told he was not going to play left field anymore. Strikeout number 2 for Waltero.
Well, and you can hardly blame George Bell. You're looking at a man who was last year the most valuable player, the player of the year. He didn't want to be a part-time player.
Fred McGriff, the batter. To balance that is the fact the Blue Jays were looking at a player who committed 11 errors in left field last year. It was the second lowest fielding percentage in the league last year in left field. That's what they were looking at in making the decision. And McGriff lofts a lazy fly. Sheridan. And Waltero just continues to cruise. No trouble at all, and he's through 7th, leading 6-0. Once upon a time, there was an awfully good-looking left-hander who pitched a key game in a World Series. Sandy Koufax on the right. Then there was the tall Dutchman, Jim Kaat.
And the good-looking lefty came out on top. Great catch right there. That's Tony Oliva. Of course, the Twins found a left-hander to win the 7th game of the World Series since then, Frank Viola. He's won about every game since, too.
That was the 7th game of the 65 series. Dodgers won 2-0. Sweet Lou Johnson hit one. Did you use that glove in that game?
Well, unfortunately, the one Sweet Lou hit off me up off the foul pole, this glove would not reach. I gave it my best reach, but it couldn't get there. Neither could Bob Allison.
The old line, I've heard about that. Put a little tomato sauce on that glove and you'd have a veal cutlet.
You couldn't get kids to take this glove, but I'll tell you, I wouldn't part with it.
Look at the day Sheridan has had. Had a 6 RBI game, as we mentioned earlier this week. Retired for the 2nd time today, and it's the first out in the bottom of the 7th. Now, the Blue Jays and Jimmy Key had to deal with the frustrations of losing that last game when it was on the line here last year. What was it like? You lost a 7th game in your own ballpark and a chance to win a world championship?
Probably mentally at that time a little bit different. We felt like we had really accomplished something in Minnesota. Not being picked, of course, to win. The Yankees were picked every year, and they won about every year. So to win the pennant that year was a real accomplishment for us. And we wanted to win the series. Everyone does. But I don't think there was the letdown losing or the disappointment losing the 7th game of the series that there was for the Blue Jays last year losing to the Tigers.
There goes Tom Henke. Start to loosen up. Probably just to get a little work in for the Blue Jays. Trammell is 0 for 3 in the game and is now 0-2 in the count.
Excuse me, Ted, another double play combination that we'd be remiss in not mentioning as I look at Alan Trammell is Tony Kubek and Bobby Richardson. They were together for 8 years in New York.
How long did Morgan and Concepcion play together?
They were 8 years.
that to the wrong part of the ballpark. And Lloyd Mosby has it for out number 2 here in the 7th. Wrong part of the ballpark, except last year. That's when I think people really got the clue that something funny was going to happen here. On opening day last year, Larry Herndon hit a ball off Dennis Rasmussen of the Yankees off the facade of the upper deck in dead center field, about a 500-foot shot.
Wow. I mean, that's just hard to imagine someone hitting a ball that far. We haven't seen any shots like that this year.
That's where Herndon hit it, the upper facade that you see at the top of your picture. And then, of course, it was Herndon who hit a home run here on the last day of the season, the only run in the Tigers' division-clinching 1-0 win. Frank Tanana bested Jimmy Key. A ball and a strike to Evans, 2 strikeouts and a 2-run homer. Talk about what late in life blooming is for Darrell Evans. He found a little bit of physical fitness his last year in San Francisco. Helped prolong his career.
And I think that's the influence of one Gus Heffling, the strength and flexibility coach for the Philadelphia Phillies. So many players that have been traded from the Phillies, gone to other ball clubs, have said to players, hey, you got to go through this workout. Strength and flexibility, it has lengthened some careers.
Evans works out the walk, the first issued by Nunez. 5 runs off Clancy in this game and 1 run off Nunez for Detroit. And Mike Heath will be the batter. With 2 outs, Heath has struck out and singled since replacing Chet Lemon. Lemon leading the game in the 3rd inning, hurting his right wrist, trying to make a play on a foul fly ball. And Mosby retires Heath. Well, the Tigers go down without a hit. And at the end of 7 at Tiger Stadium, Walt Terrell cruising with a 2-hitter. One of sports' great fortnights begins on Monday on the grass in London. And NBC will be there again for the 20th year at Wimbledon. And tomorrow join Dick Enberg and Bud Collins for a unique retrospective of the players, the champions, and the hallowed grounds of the famed All England Tennis Club. NBC celebrates 20 years of Wimbledon tomorrow. And we go to the 8th inning now at Tiger Stadium. It is 6-0, Detroit leading. Walt Terrell has allowed just 2 hits, both by Nelson Liriano. A bunt single to start the game, and a single to right in the 4th inning. Kelly Gruber taking a strike. I'm sure what's gone through the minds of the Tigers a few times over the years, Jim, is they know that the guy looks the same, the number and the name in the back of the uniform are the same, but there's no way this pitcher is the same. Walt Terrell pitching in this ballpark and pitching on the road. Well, the grass slows that ball up. Trammell throws out Gruber, 1 away.
And that gives you a little taste of the mental aspect of this game. And on the major league level, it is so mental. As Walt Terrell knows, when he walks to the mound at Tiger Stadium, good things happen. He's in a positive frame of mind. He's aggressive. He gets ahead of hitters. Jim Clancy, as you mentioned, 4-16, goes to the mound here and says, wow, you know, when's it going to cave in? And it caved in for him today. Negative thoughts when he crosses the line.
Ernie Witt is 0 for 2. Just take last year, for example, and I think all 3 years were probably the same for Terrell here. But last year, Terrell was 13-2 in this ballpark with a 2.4 ERA. His earned run average on the road last year was 6.1. That's a mind-boggling difference.
And if you asked Walt Terrell, he probably has no explanation for it himself other than a confident feeling here. Ball club obviously plays better behind him here.
Evans will take it himself, and they're 2 down in the 8th.
You mentioned the bargains, Ted, on the Toronto Blue Jay roster. How about Walt Terrell? When the New York Mets acquired Walt Terrell, they got a pitcher named Ron Darling along with him for Lee Mazzilli. He went to the Texas Rangers. And now, of course, Terrell ended up here. Tigers had to give up Howard Johnson. But, boy, a couple of quality pitchers the Mets acquired in that deal.
Well, you could put together a pretty good staff just on pitchers that were once property of the Texas Rangers. Current major leaguers.
Well, Jim Clancy, who started for the Blue Jays today, started there. Dave Righetti.
Tom Henke. That wouldn't be a bad bullpen right there.
I think every organization spends, well, I hope they don't spend too much time, but sitting around the press room talking about all the players that have left their organization. Kelly Gruber comes here from Cleveland. Cleveland gets Brooke Jacoby from the Atlanta Braves.
Barfield, long drive to left center, and that one is gone. And with it goes Terrell's shutout on Barfield's 4th home run of the year. And it's a 6-1 Tiger lead. That is Barfield's first home run since May 10th. Part of that time, of course, he's been out with an injury. And the batter is Manny Lee. So that's the first Jays run, only their 3rd hit, and one of the few balls they've really even hit hard today off Terrell.
Well, Terrell's in a position now, anytime he falls behind a hitter with a 6-1 lead in the 8th inning, they're going to get a much more hittable pitch than they would have received back in the 3rd or 4th inning. Object here is not walk anybody, make them hit the ball.
Tigers had to use their bullpen a little bit the last couple of nights. I'm sure they'd like to see Terrell finish. He's had 2 complete games this year. Sparky started this year with an 8-man pitching staff in the month of April. He went to 9 in May, and just last week added a 10th pitcher. Oh, Lee is out, but Barfield's home run gives the Jays their first run. They're still 5 shy. Tom Henke to pitch the bottom of the 8th for the Blue Jays. He hasn't pitched since Monday. So Jimmy Williams trying to get him some work to keep him sharp. See the record thus far this year. Last year, I think you can make a pretty good argument that he had the greatest season ever by a pitcher that did not win a game. He was virtually unhittable last year, 34 saves, but he was 0-6. And Noakes hits one right back off his hip. And Gruber doesn't make the play in time, and Noakes gets an infield hit. Well, Noakes, who struck out 3 times, hits the first pitch from Henke.
Well, checking, the trainer ran out. Let's see where this ball hits him. Going out to check his fingertips, but it looked like it really hit him down in the thigh. He was might have just glanced off the fingertips there. Gruber too late to make the play, and Noakes has an infield hit. He doesn't get too many of those.
Ray Knight will bat now against Henke. 6-0 Tigers in the bottom of, or 6-1 I should say, Tigers in the bottom of the 8th. And Knight rips a base hit. 2 pitches and 2 hits. Well, this year teams are hitting Henke more than they ever have. Opponents batting .262 against Henke thus far this year. That compares to 188 last year. And last year, I don't want to throw out too many numbers, but here's one that's amazing. 94 innings last year for Tom Henke. He allowed only 62 base hits. It's a phenomenal ratio. Now Jim Whalewander will be on to run for Noakes. He's at second, Knight at first with no one out. Tom Brookins batting in the 8th inning. Henke has to field the bunt. It's a sacrifice for Brookins. A 6-1 lead in the 8th inning, and Sparky Anderson has his 3rd leading RBI man. Bunt.
That gives you a little idea. We've seen a lot of comebacks in baseball this year, but I think it gives you an idea, maybe the respect that Sparky has for the Toronto lineup. Plus, that's his style. He likes to play as a lot of managers do, maybe not most, but you get in the late innings, a chance to move some men up, get a couple extra runs, get them.
And now 2 men in scoring position, and Gary Pettis will bat for the first time.
Might try to squeeze here because Pettis can't swing the bat too well despite the big lead.
That's what the Jays are working at. They've got Gruber creeping in at 3rd, and the infield in all around.
If you joined us late, yeah, you wouldn't try to squeeze often with a 6-1 lead, but Gary Pettis left the game in the 4th inning last night with a strained left shoulder, batting right-handed.
Pettis also underwent surgery in the offseason to get a ligament torn loose from the knuckle and the middle finger of his left hand. And he was shown before the game he cannot make a closed fist. His middle finger protrudes up about 2 to 3 inches. That, he says, bothers him more when he bats right-handed than left-handed. Two balls and a strike with 1 out. 6-1 Tigers. And Pettis, a guy who in his career has been tough to walk, works the count to 3-1.
Probably will not be tough to walk today because of that injury. Be a much more patient hitter. Go ahead and take a couple pitches, hope he gets a walk.
He got one there. So they're loaded up with 1 out for Lou Whitaker.
Boy, doesn't that frustrate you as a pitcher, walking a guy who you know is out of the lineup with a shoulder injury because he can't swing the bat very well.
I'm sure a lot of people may be wondering, why is Tom Henke in a ball game when his team's 5 runs down? And I think the reaction you saw from Henke answers the question. But the short relievers need to work. Even if the game is not a game they can save, they need work.
Well, he has not pitched since Monday, pitched an inning on Monday night. And you're right, even that's a challenge of the manager of an American League team with a designated hitter. Get the short reliever in there often enough to keep him sharp.
Jimmy Williams, of course, would rather see Henke work out his troubles in a game like this one than in a game where he needs him to save it. One and one now to Whitaker. The Jays have a pretty deep bullpen. It's had some ins and outs this year, but they've got 4 relievers right now that you can count on to save a ball game. Well, there's a pitch that we've seen Henke throw this year that I don't ever remember seeing him throw in tough situations, Jim, is a changeup.
Well, short relievers find out over a period of time. Bruce Sutter, a good example. As we look at Henke's changeup and Whitaker well out front, he relied strictly, Sutter did, on the split finger fastball. Later in his career, found out hitters looking for that pitch so often that he gets hitters out with the fastball. Mike Henneman of the Tigers is discussing the same thing. He has to vary his pitches a little more the more often he faces the same hitters.
2-2 now. Mentioning the Jays have 4 relievers. Dwayne Ward, a young guy they picked up from Atlanta's, had some good outings this year. Left-hander David Wells. Mark Eichhorn, the long reliever. And they hope to have Jeff Musselman back shortly. Struck out Whitaker. So now 2 outs, and Pat Sheridan will get a chance to add to his banner day. Sheridan's home run in the first inning was his 8th this season. That equals his career high, which he had in 1984 while playing with Kansas City. Where Sheridan had a big home run here in Game 3 of the ALCS. Hit one off Jeff Reardon to win the only game the Tigers did win in the playoffs last year. And 1 strike to count. 42,000 in Tiger Stadium today. Beautiful day. Big weekend here. Grand Prix race tomorrow. Didn't hit that ball very hard. And Henke gets out of a bases-loaded jam. But the Blue Jays need 5 in the 9th inning to stay in it.
Well, if you joined us late, the reason Chet Lemon is not in the Tiger lineup anymore, this play early in the ball game, Jesse Barfield with a foul fly, and watch the right wrist right there of Lemon. Braces himself against the rail, had to leave the game. He was hit on the left wrist by a pitch from Jim Clancy earlier. He is okay in the Tiger clubhouse, just a bruised wrist.
Nelson Liriano starts the 9th against Walt Terrell. And got hit. Ooh. That one hurt. That's the 3rd hit batsman today, and that one stung Liriano.
Wow.
That might have hit some bone because that ball bounced a long way.
Well, usually as a player, you're hoping if the ones that hit and drop right at the plate usually have a little more of an impact. This is more of a glancing blow, but look where the target from Mike Heath is, and now look where that ball hits him. Right above the elbow, and what you always hope there as a player that it is in the muscle part, up in the tricep, and not right on the elbow joint where it could do some bone damage.
See how Walt Terrell has worked today. Pretty much typical Terrell game when he's on. Make you hit the ball. He doesn't walk or strike out very many.
Well, that's really the first pitch that he's missed the strike zone by a long ways. And sure, Clancy hit a couple Tigers earlier in the ball game, but a 6-1 lead in the 9th inning with Nelson Liriano hitting, you're not going to mess around and throw at him on purpose.
There's the Tiger bullpen. Left-hander Guillermo Hernandez and the right-hander Mike Henneman. Both worked last night. Hernandez for 2 innings and Henneman for 1. Lloyd Mosby the batter now. Nobody out, runner at first. Tigers have some defensive changes. Mike Heath has moved in behind home plate. Luis Salazar has gone into play left field, and Pat Sheridan has moved over to right. Salazar got a late break on that ball and then almost overran it. Salazar stumbled as he was beginning to chase that ball, and then he almost overran it. Here's your score. The Dodgers with Tim Belcher pitching, leading 3-0 in the ninth. The Texas and Oakland to the ninth, still tied at 1. Storm Davis and Charlie Huff. The Yankees won earlier today to stay in first place in the American League East. Roger Clemens pitched his 6th shutout. And Chris Sabo had 4 extra base hits to lead the Reds.
You see Salazar chasing that fly. No matter how many times an outfielder gets a fly ball in the left field here, it's hard to trust the fact that that ball is going to come back towards you. We've seen it a couple of times today where they almost overrun it and have to reach back to make the catch.
That Cubs win today was the 12th for Greg Maddux. Now Liriano at first base is asking to be taken out of the game. After the first pitch to Mullenix, Nelson Liriano talking to first base coach Billy Smith. Then I think he asked for a pinch runner and will get one in Seal Campusano. He'll run for Liriano. 1 strike to count to Mullenix with 1 out in the ninth. The Tigers leading 6-1. And this could be it. Whitaker himself. And Walt Terrell pitches a complete game 3-hitter. It's his first win in almost a month. The Tigers have now won 9 of their last 11. They win their 40th game of the year, and they stay within a half game of the Yankees in the American League East. 4 RBIs for Pat Sheridan. This week's NBC Miller Lite Player of the Game is Tiger pitcher Walt Terrell for the complete game 3-hit win. Miller Lite happy to present a check for $1,000 in Walt Terrell's name to the National Multiple Sclerosis Society. We'll give a supporting actor to Pat Sheridan for 4 RBIs, and he played all 3 outfield positions in the Tigers. The Major League Baseball Game of the Week has been brought to you by Buick and your Buick dealer. The great American road belongs to Buick. By Mr. Goodwrench. No one knows your GM car better than Mr. Goodwrench. No one. By Miller High Life. Brewed to be smooth, never bitter. Takes time to make, time to enjoy. And by the insurance companies of the Kemper Group and the independent agents who represent them.
Today, we're going
Well, I think this was a game an old left-hander could enjoy. Walt Terrell did it with barely more than 100 pitches. He made him hit it.
And no more talk of trading Walt Terrell like there was early in the year.
Walt Terrell goes the distance. A 3-hitter. He's now 3-3. Jim Clancy, the loser. Pat Sheridan with 4 RBIs today, including a 2-run homer. Darrell Evans homered. So did Jesse Barfield for the only Toronto run. The Tigers have won their 40th. They stay just a half game back of the Yankees. The Blue Jays drop now 10 games off the pace in the American League East. Now this is Ted Robinson along with Jim Kaat saying so long from Tiger Stadium in Detroit. Next Saturday, Game of the Week action will take place in Chicago when the National League East leading New York Mets meet the Cubs. Or some of you will see an American League West battle between the Oakland A's and the world champion Minnesota Twins, all on your network of the Summer Olympics, NBC.